Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to do the Viet Cong weapons in the Vietnam War Part 2. I did a Part 1, so today we're doing Part 2. Well, technically tonight because it's not day anymore, but you know what I mean. So this video I want to talk about the Japanese and British weapons because I believe that's the final bits of the hodgepodge of weapons that I want to talk about, unless there's some random weapons from like some really like odd country, not odd country, but like such a small amount of weapons from, let's say, just any country, I guess. I don't know, but I've went over the bulk of their hodgepodge, I guess you could say, for the most part. So today we're just touching up on the Japanese and British weapons in their arsenal before they would standardize the Soviet and Chinese weapons that they would eventually have in their arsenal because of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which I will talk about this video while I'm talking about the Japanese weapons. So yeah, ignore my dog in the background. He did not want to get off my bed and did not want to get out of my room, so I guess he's going to be a guest in this video and just lay right there and curl up. So yeah, we're gonna get into this video right now. I don't know if I'm gonna do part 3 of this, by the way, unless there's like a ton of weapons I didn't talk about or just something. But as far as I know of, I think part 1 covered the bulk of them, and then part 2 is covering like the last remnants that I didn't cover in part 1. So I think that's how that's going right now. So yeah, if there are any I missed, let me know down below, and I will make a part 3, but I'm probably not going to do that until who knows when, because I'm thinking with this series about mixing it up a bit, and not, instead of doing a different army in Vietnam War, that era, I want to move it around, like different wars, and kind of switch it up a bit. Because I feel like, yeah, I could do Americans, I could do Australians next, that sort of thing in the Vietnam War, but I don't know. I want to do something different than just Vietnam and then move to World War II. I'd rather switch it up a bit, keep things fresh, not make the series too boring, because this is going to be like quite a big series, because I'm not just doing Vietnam weapons, or not Vietnam weapons, but Vietnam War weapons used by different armies and stuff like that. I'm also going to do World War I, World War II, American Revolution, American Civil War, I guess any war you could mostly name besides, like, you know, some ancient, like, war with Spartans or something like that. That I don't think I'll do. I'll probably really only do with, like, the era of guns and that sort of stuff. So, realistically, like, 1700s and after, more than likely, is what I would probably do with this series. So, yeah, we're gonna get into this because I'm yapping too much, because we got a bit to cover. So yeah, gonna start off with the Japanese weapons, a little bit of info on that, and we'll get into it now. So during the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong would occasionally use Japanese weapons early on in the Vietnam War, from the early insurgent phases in the late 1950s through the early 1960s. And by autumn 1967, standardized Soviet and Chinese weapons largely would replace them. And how they got these Japanese weapons was during World War II. The Imperial Japanese Army occupied Indochina, which is where Vietnam is. And when Japan surrendered in 1945, at the end of World War II, vast stockpiles of their weapons were left behind. And these weapons, along with leftover gear that, you know, belonged to the French, British, and also the Americans, which is how they probably got some of their weapons as well, which I talked about in part 1, were the backbone of the Viet Minh's early resistance. When the Viet Cong formed in 1959, they inherited and scavenged these same obsolete Japanese firearms from World War II, because of a lack of modern equipment, which they would later get in 1967. And as the war escalated and the North Vietnamese Army, or PAVN, as they are called, PAVN, for anyone wondering, formalized their supply lines through the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which you probably heard a lot about if you studied the Vietnam War. And regular Viet Cong battalions were widely re-equipped with modern arms of Soviet designs, such as the AK-47, by 1967. So the Japanese weapons used by the Viet Cong were Arisaka rifles, the Type 38 and the Type 99, which both were bolt-action rifles. And they would also use the Type 100 submachine gun, the Type 99 light machine gun, the Nambu pistols, and Japanese swords and bayonets. And another thing I want to throw in here while I'm on this topic is also that local guerrilla militias and regional forces continued to use whatever older, makeshift, and captured weapons they had access to, meaning a straight Japanese rifle could still occasionally be found in circulation well into the late 1960s, when most of the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army and a lot of them were usually using Soviet weapons such as the AK-47, SKS, or even the Chinese Type 56. So that is something to also keep in mind. Now we're on to the Viet Cong usage of British weapons, which usually were World War II British weapons. And though they made up a small portion of their overall arsenal, these firearms were primarily still scavenged from older stockpiles left behind by previous occupying forces, such as the French and Japanese, or, the British, obviously, or they were obtained through the illicit arms networks. And the Viet Cong used British weapons during the early phases of their insurgency from roughly 1957 to 1965, which makes me wonder if they used that at Da Nang or something like that. That would be something interesting to research. These weapons were largely legacy supplies left behind by Allied and French colonial forces following World War I, World War II, and the First Indochina War, which I talked about in Part 1. And it's interesting to think that they also left behind these weapons following World War I, because that's actually a detail I didn't know. And I didn't know that the French and British and all of them were actually there, probably during their colonial era of World War I. So who knows? That might be something interesting to make a video on one day. Deserves a separate video maybe. We'll see. And then during the early stages of the Vietnam War conflict, the Viet Cong relied heavily on the scrounge and capture doctrine, which meant utilizing anything available. Hence why they had a mix of so many different weapons from multiple different countries in their early arsenal before standardizing Soviet and Chinese weapons, which were basically, what they had later on, because of the fact that, Ho Chi Minh Trail and all that. Like by 1965 and universally by 1967, the Viet Cong phased out these miscellaneous older Western and European firearms. They would rapidly re-equipped with modern standardized Soviet and Chinese weaponry such as the AK-47, SKS, Type 56, which is a variant of the AK-47, which was made by the Chinese, that were heavily supplied by North Vietnam to match the conventional warfare phase of the war in Vietnam. So the British weapons used by the Viet Cong as follows are the Sten machine gun, which is basically a stamped sheet metal gun, the Lanchester submachine gun, which, if I'm pretty sure, was a copy of a German gun that existed prior to World War II, interestingly enough. Lee Enfield bolt-action rifle, popular in World War I and II. That's also a bolt-action rifle. Bren light machine gun, which also popular in World War II. Pretty interesting one. Kind of interesting to see that it was used by the Viet Cong. Haven't really been able to find pictures of it though. And oddly enough, this is something I didn't know was really considered a British weapon. This kind of confuses me, but somehow they apparently used Bangalore torpedoes. And the reason it's British, apparently, and on this list is because it was originally developed in British India, which didn't know that. That's kind of interesting to think about, because Bangalore torpedoes, that's basically what they would use on D-Day in 1944 to get through the wire. It's what you'd see in Saving Private Ryan or the COD World War II campaign, that sort of stuff. So that's kind of interesting to think they use that. I don't know how they managed to get their hands on that. That I would like to figure out, because that's actually pretty interesting. So maybe some more research, and I don't do a video on this series on it, but definitely something that might be an interesting topic one day. But it was an explosive charge that, that was basically this whole thing. The Bangalore torpedo was developed in British India, and this explosive charge was adapted by communist forces to clear paths through barbed wire and defensive perimeters, which pretty interesting. I mean, that's kind of its purpose, but still interesting to think that communist forces actually would use this possibly against the same people that were making them and churning them out during World War II, or whenever it was that they were churning them out. So now that we're done with the little research and reading off that, let me know what y'all thought of this video. Was it any better than the part 1 because of the fact that I included a bit more pictures this time around? Also, don't, like I said earlier, like 10 minutes or so ago in the video, I'm not, like, basically at the beginning of the video, but I'm not sure if I'll do a part 3 of this, just due to the simple fact that I don't really see the point, because I've went over a bulk of the Viet Cong weapons. If I did anything, I would want to talk about the North Vietnamese Army, NVA / like PAVN as they were called. Not sure why they were called like PAVN and not like NVA, but North Vietnamese Army, maybe that's one I want to do eventually. That I would do. But that's just because I want to see how different their resources in terms of firearms were compared to the Viet Cong, because I'm sure it was a bit more standardized at times, though never know, could be the same way. So I don't know. If it's the same, then I'll probably only do one video on the North Vietnamese Army. I'm not sure if that'll be my next video, or if it could be the Australians in Vietnam. I'm not too sure. Kind of got to figure that out, because like I said, I'm only doing this as far back as the 1700s, or maybe at most 1600s. I want this to be more in the era of guns and stuff like that, like where you have standardized guns. It's not one certain type of musket or something like that. I want it to be something that I can make a bit more of a video on, where there's a wide variety of firearms used. Like World War II, for an army, you can definitely have, a wide variety of firearms used, which if I do it for World War II for the Americans, I would probably want to do that in like 2 separate like series portions, I guess you'd want to say, like one on the Marines and then another one on the European theater, that sort of thing. But I don't know, maybe I'd have to do one separate for the paratroopers too. I'm not really sure. That would kind of be something to figure out, because that would be a whole different ball game. We're not even close to there yet, because this can be a really like long series, like the whole weapons of armies throughout history and all that stuff. So yeah, we'll see how this series goes. If y'all ever have any recommendations, let me know down below in the comments section. Thank y'all for watching. I recorded this video, like right now it's like probably almost midnight. I've been recording this for probably like an hour or more, and it's like basically my brain is starting to turn off, so you probably noticed that at times while I'm recording. But I don't think I did too bad this time around. I wasn't too tired, so anyways, hope you all enjoyed this video. Hoping to have a few more videos out, maybe like 1 or 2 more by the end of July. We'll see, because I'm gonna be going on a trip like end of July, early August, So probably like July 31st to like August 8th. We'll see. I'm not too sure how long I'll be gone. So I think in between now and then, I'm probably like, well, when I leave and come back and all that, like when I'm gone, I'm probably just going to upload shorts, do a few posts, that sort of thing. I'm not going to do any big videos or anything like that. So yeah. Hope y'all enjoy the videos. And yeah, I'm going to end it off right here. Just that I don't keep yapping for too long. So yeah. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, and also, one thing I want to mention, I do have a Discord as well. That is, if you look in my channel, like bio, I guess you'd call it, my Discord link should be there. So if you want to check out my Discord, go ahead. It would be greatly appreciated. We barely have any people there at the moment. So, you know, if y'all want to connect with me or anything like that, or any of the people there, maybe chat, share builds, talk history, that sort of thing. I'm trying to get that place up and running and get more people there. So if y'all are interested, go on ahead, send my channel bio, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day and a great night.